Planes and birds share the same living environment, the air. The threat of birds to aviation has been identified and studied from many years ago and up to today. Israel is considered a pioneer in the field thanks to research by Professor Yossi Leshem, a professor in the Department of Zoology at Tel Aviv University, who has studied over 20 years on the migrating patterns of birds and their behavior. The impact of a bird on a plane flying very fast is greatly amplified by the speed, and the impact of large birds, such as geese or storks, can cause damage to the engine or other parts of the aircraft. Those who have seen the film Sully, which depicted an event of aircraft being hit by birds, can mistakenly understand that planes are left without normal engines as a routine thing. But this is not so.
The flight time 6 hours and 20 minutes or so to London.
As a routine thing, but this is not so. The Hudson case was very rare and unusual in the fact that the impact of the birds caused both aircraft engines to fail, but also demonstrated the miraculous design of a passenger planes to function as a ship. Coping with the threat of birds has several defense layers, and the combination of all of them creates a safety environment. Also, in the vast majority of cases, bird strikes do not hinder us from completing our flights. We'll now discuss the components of the powerful defense system for dealing with birds. The research initiated and carried out by Professor Leshem began by identifying migration patterns. He documented and tracked millions of birds passing through the country and found the location of migration. Following the studies, it was possible to define when and where the concentration of birds were expected and accordingly redirect the flight corridors for all the aircraft. In the second stage, bird flocks identification systems were established. In Israel, at Latrun, for example, a radar was stationed to identify flocks of birds. This identification then alerts the control tower, which can funnel the plane's movement so that it doesn't reach bird-stricken areas.
Bird control units have been established in numerous airports around the world, and these units use various means, such as shooting and intimidation measures, to clear the area of the runways from birds.
A very quick flight time, 6 hours and 20 minutes or so to London.
These units also alert the control tower when birds are near, and because of this, the controllers sometimes change takeoff and landing directions and routes to avoid flying in concentrated bird areas. Together, with all of these defenses put in place, it was also decided to change the flight profile of an aircraft. Since an absolute majority of the bird casualties happen at the altitude between the ground and 10,000 feet, roughly 2 miles, planes at these altitudes were instructed to fly relatively slow, turning on their external lights and climbing steeply. All these changes reduce exposure time, leaving the birds time to evade impact and allowing time for pilots to respond to alerting systems. In the event that all means up to this point have not prevented the birds from being hit, a relatively low-speed flight will create a softer blow to the aircraft, thus causing less damage. Strengthening the aircraft's engines and surfaces are the fifth and last line of defense discussed here. Modern aircraft engines are designed to withstand bird impact of medium size without interfering with further flights. Aircraft engine blades have been reinforced, and in the licensing tests of an aircraft or engine before starting its serial production, the manufacturer is required to prove that a bird's impact at different flight speeds will not result in a loss of function of the engine, cockpit windows, or any other critical components. The results from all of these tests show that modern planes are very resistant to such impacts. We've seen here how the world of aviation deals with the issue of birds. It is true that sometimes we hear of a bird strike event, but such events usually result in minimal damage to the fuselage.
And secondly, once the meal service is finished, I'm sure you'll try and get some sleep over the course of the flight.